Hey lovelies, Lisa here with what might be the first in a series of, maybe even a weekly series of videos. Also might not be that. This might just be a one-off. I'm not sure, but it's something I've been thinking about for a long time. I've been thinking about a way to get sort of one level deeper with my discussion of mindful tarot and to really plow into what we might call the tarot Dharma, the Dharma of tarot. Now, mindful tarot, what that phrase describes for me, what that phrase has meant for me as I've been using it is, this intersection of practices designed to help us be more aware, more present centered, more conscious moment by moment of the world as it's arising in our bodies and our hearts and our minds. The intersection of that practice with our relationship with the 78 cards. So one of the ways I've been talking about this is it's the intersection of awareness practice with divination, with cartomancy, but really, it's about the relationship between that present moment, hunkering down in the world as we experience it, without judgment, with curiosity, with openness, the world as we experience it right here and now. The intersection of that with this sacred mandala of imagery, of number, of picture that the tarot provides. So the place where archetypal interpretation meets awareness practice. That's mindful tarot. Now I'm wanting to sort of take that practice or explore that practice sort of one level deeper, is I think to get more explicitly into the realm of what I'm calling tarot Dharma, the realm at which there's an intersection between that sacred map, that sacred mandala of imagery, number, arrangement that the tarot provides. I can't remember how I began that sentence, but the intersection of that mandala with some of the most traditional insights and teachings of the Buddha Dharma, of the expounding of truth as it's evolved over the centuries, starting with the historical Buddha, with Siddhartha, back 2,500 years ago. Now, I should say before I even dive into what I want to share today, the word Dharma, that word, it has a kind of jingly religious connotation, spiritual connotation, but the word Dharma is, just a Sanskrit word for like stuff, for phenomena, for the forms of experience, of existence as they meet a conscious mind. So the world as it arises in relationship with those of us who have brains, nervous systems, so the dharmas of the world, it's just things. It's just, trees, apples, humans, molecules, dust mites. I mean, it's everything. It's like stuff, the stuff of the world. But the way we often think about Dharma is with this exalted religious, spiritual sense, where it's not just the stuff of the world, it's not just the little bits, the forms that make up reality, it's reality, it's what is. And I should say that, the origin of the word Dharma is tied to the same Indo-European root as the English word form. So you might think that Dharma, whether we talk about it like Dharma with a small d, the dharmas of the world, or Dharma with a big D, the Buddha Dharma, we're talking about the form of existence, the world as it manifests in response to mind, the world as it manifests in response to consciousness. It's the form that the world takes as we encounter it. It's phenomena, stuff, it's truth. It's the truth that we encounter. So it's not a truth that's up there in some cloud separate from consciousness. It is the truth that consciousness encounters. Now, there's also centuries of teachings about that truth, about the Dharma. So sometimes people, when they're talking about the Buddha Dharma, they're actually literally talking about things like scriptures, like this is what the Buddha was supposed to have said. This is the Lotus Sutra. This is, the Flower Ornament Sutra. That they're talking about specific scriptures. But the word Dharma just means the world as it appears, the truth of existence. So, what would the tarot Dharma be? The tarot Dharma is those truths of our existence as they emerge in our relationship to the 78 cards. So what the 78 cards has to teach us about stuff, about the world of our experience. So I wanted to share one little piece of tarot Dharma today, and then we'll see if this impulse to talk more directly about the intersection between the tarot and the Buddha Dharma, whether that yields fruit and I end up making more videos. We'll see. But I wanted to start with this sentiment. Now, this is a little pamphlet. It's a book, but it's like a self-published book, handwritten, little drawings. It came out in 1990, and the author is Sherry Huber. And I'm not, maybe you pronounce her name Cherie, but I think it's Sherry. Sherry Huber, who is a Zen teacher, founded the Zen Monastery for Peace. I think that's the name of it, in Murphy's, California, back in the 80s. Has been around for a long time. She's a little controversial because she's sort of a self-appointed Zen teacher. It's not clear that she studied with, a recognized teacher, so she sort of came to her understanding of Zen on her own. So sometimes people are a little bit wary about her teachings, but she's written a number of these sweet little books that have just a lot of wholesome truth. They're all out of print at this point, I think, or many of them are. But I am just compelled by the title. That which you are seeking is causing you to seek. Yeah, that's a fundamental teaching within the Dharma, within the Buddha Dharma. That which you are seeking is causing you to seek. It's actually a kind of fundamental spiritual truth. There are versions of it that come up in every world religion I can think of, which is to say, the truth may feel like it's out there. And if you're a seeker, which, you're watching a tarot video, so you watching me, you probably are a seeker. If you're a seeker, it feels like there's truth out there, right? And we're doing our best to find our way. Think about the imagery of the Eight of Cups, right? We're maybe leaving behind the consolations of this world to try to scale those mountains and get closer to truth, right? So it feels like truth is out there. And Sherry Huber's point, this Dharma point, is, look, you wouldn't be able to seek out there if you didn't already have the truth in here, right? That which is causing you to seek is already what you seek. There's something in you propelling you forward. Now, the name for this within Buddhism is to talk about our Buddha nature, our awakened nature, that we all already, we don't know it, but we all already are awakened beings. Without having that, you might call it your divine spark, but without having that gem, that jewel of awakening already thoroughly sort of baked in to our being, we would not know to go anywhere else, right? We wouldn't know that there might be another way. We know there's another way because that other way is already in us. Now, that may sound really lovely, like I have a little bit of God in me, or I have God in me, Christ consciousness. Another way to talk about this in another world system. I have Buddha nature in me. I'm already awakened. I know how to, I know what awakening is. I'm on the path already. Sounds pretty good. Sounds pretty good to already be awakened. But there's another way to understand this, which is to say that in us, the suffering that we experience already, that is the seed of awakening. So it's not like I have this little lovely spark in me, and that is what makes me want it. The other side of that, I do have this little yummy spark of awakening in me. But what makes that yummy spark speak to me is the pain I feel that I'm not living. I'm not living in congruence with something. It's kind of like the way in which the negative space of a loss is what helps you seek the positive thing that will fill that loss. The negative space is already there. The sense of that whole, H-O-L-E, is what allows us to seek wholeness, W-H-O-L-E. But I mean this in a way that is not like cosmic or woo-woo even. I just mean this like because I am not happy, or because I'm prone to suffering, or because I feel dissatisfied with my life, if I didn't feel any of that, I wouldn't do anything that even remotely looks like seeking, because I'd have what I need right here. But my suffering is what allows me to move outward toward a different life. It's not what's out there, it's what I'm feeling right here. And the 78 helps us all over the place see this truth. The sequence within any of the 4 minor suits, the sequence of cards and images, or within the major arcana, is telling us, in fact, the way in which, showing us the way in which that which is inside me is causing me to seek something I'm looking for outside of me. I want to make this clear, or clearer, with a quick look at the suit of wands, which for me has always provided a particularly strong illustration of this principle, that that which you are seeking is causing you to seek. So if we think about the way in which we move from the Ace of Wands to the 10 of Wands, if we think about this progression of images, and I'm going to leave the quartz out for a minute, because they add a complexity to what I'm saying that I want to get into, but maybe not in this video. If we think about how we go from here to here, we think about the ways in which the fire, the vigor, the energy of this suit, of this pointy suit — I often talk about the pointy suits and the round suits, the suits that are phallic and thrusting, the wands and the swords, versus the more classically gender normative female suits of the cups with their receptacle, or the coins with their roundness. In these pointy suits, these suits that remind us of the singular individual subject, these suits that remind us of the I, number one, the single solitary ego who masters the world, manifesting his truth. If we think of these pointy suits in that way, and we think about how the wands with its fieriness moves, we see the ways in which this energy, this vitality, this vibrance, this seminal quality of life, of the life force, moves into the openness, the sort of rise of ambition of how do I realize my will, my creativity, my inspiration, my fire, my vigor and verve, everything that is associated with the wands. How do I realize that in the world? So an opening emerges. And then that opening becomes something like a project. So we move from the 2 to the 3, and now we have not just a doorway, but we have a portal that we're walking through, and the boats off in the distance remind us that we're in the land of projects. We're potentially working with others, that additional third wand, that this is about teamwork and partnership. The 3s often mean that kind of movement beyond the self, and even beyond the dyad of self and other, into a world of teamwork. So we're moving into the world. This energy, this right, is causing me to move forward into the world, into the land of project, and then building structures. So the communal aspect, the vision of, for me, this is always a card that invokes the chuppah of the marriage, the wedding canopy. But it's also celebration, community, it's home. It's the 4 walls of a home, right? So a sense of establishment. But that oomph, that vigor, that movement into the world, the fire of the wands, means that this place of resting is going to move into a world of social striving and competition, because that fieriness is so much about individuating. How do we find our way really into community? How do we move from the inspiration of the individual into a place that really is stable as community? And the answer is, we might get there if we leverage our community into a project that we can succeed in. And so now the self has a kind of triumphant quality. But what's really happened is that this world of striving together in community has now moved into a kind of stability that is about hierarchy and accomplishment. So the sixes often are a card that's about recognition, and his pursuits have now been recognized, have been crowned. His impulses, his inspiration have received a kind of crowning touch from the world at large. So we get a kind of stability, but you're never at a point where that recognition is final. And so then this moves into the seven and into this world of, again, now I'm under siege. Now it's me against the world. And we start to see how this energy of the wands, which brought forward this sense of opening, of a portal, of a place to move into the world, becomes actually now, again, a place where the self is set against the world. And a kind of projectile vitality here leads into, again, a sense of being embattled. So as the suit progresses and matures from the ace through the 10 cards, we see how this energy tries to find expression in the world and ultimately becomes oppression in the world. The self carrying this full load, right? Still at odds, self versus world, even though the energy of the suit has all been about, from its get-go, has tried to be about, I'm looking for the ace here, which I seem to have misplaced, here we go, has all been about life and the life force. So, going back to this tarot Dharma, that which you are seeking is causing you to seek. We start to see the way in which the tarot as a whole, in this progression within the wands, is taking the movement of energy, is showing us how that leads the self into into an ever more kind of energetic engagement with the world, but an energetic engagement with the world that ends us feeling overwhelmed and depleted, oppressed by that energy itself. So there's a message here about energy, about fire, about vigor, about everything that the will and our volition and our vitality, everything that brings to us that's positive, and also how that turns us toward things that are less than positive, kind of being embattled, kind of being at odds with the world, and finally a sense of oppression. And so that feeling that like there's a world out there and I'm in relation to it starts really with this vitality that the self taps into. The tarot keeps reminding us that this world that's out there, that we're in relation and in opposition with, that world out there actually starts right here. And it helps us see how the dynamic energies that unfold within us often put us at odds with what we take to be outside us. That which we seek is what's causing us to seek. That which we think is out there is actually what's in here. And conversely, that which we take to be simply internal is also what ties us to the outer world. This is the story that the tarot is telling in every suit, in all of the progressions from one card to the next. And it's what unifies the tarot as that mandala, that sacred whole, that map of life. It's what unifies the tarot into that wholeness, that which is causing you to seek is what you seek. I think I said that wrong. That which you are seeking is causing you to seek. That which you are seeking is causing you to seek. Okay, that's today's little tarot Dharma. Maybe I'll be back with some more. Maybe not. But thank you for watching. And thank you, as always, for your practice.